it was too much money for an idiot like me to be turned loose with. So yes, shit got chaotic then. I've had knives pulled on me. I've had guns pulled on me. I've had my customers beat up. My brother went in and raped the dude's shop one night because of what he was saying. The tattoo business is dealing with artistic people, and artistic people are very insecure with their art. And when that becomes a problem, not everybody's going to take it.
Hi, and welcome to my show. I'm Ronick, and you're watching Tired Journal of our podcast. And today's host is Alan, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on my show, Alan. It's great to thank you for letting me hear your story about your tattoo business and just your life in general.
Man, glad to be here, Ronick. I appreciate you having me on, and pleasure to do it.
I would start with, what was your childhood like?
I was born in Hickory, North Carolina. I spent a lot of time between Hickory and down in the Sand Hills on my great-grandfather's tobacco farm till I was about 12, and then pretty much summers after that.
What were your parents like?
Not saying this in a negative way toward my parents, but my mother was an alcoholic, and we had problems and issues because of that. My dad didn't drink. They separated when I was 7, and I kind of bounced back and forth between both of them. Definitely spent more time with my dad because of my mother's drinking problem, but all in all, they did the best they could.
Can you describe it a little more, if you don't mind?
My mom was a seamstress. She, I guess maybe for her, alcohol was a release from whatever pressure she was under. My dad was a cop before I was born and was a chef most of his life. Hickory was free range, man. Too, is when I was born. By 7, 8, 9 years old, man, I was all over that city, bicycle, walking, whatever. It was great. It was a lot more free and open spaces than there is now.
So you were a Gen X baby?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Really didn't have a curfew, really didn't have many rules. If the sun was out, I was outside. Me and my brother both. He was 5 years younger than I am. We didn't have to worry about it back then like, today's society has so many negative things going on. It was great. I mean, we roamed all over the city, 2 or 3 miles to a friend's house, city pool, whatever there was.
Not that anyone's as good or bad, but are you glad you grew up back then, considering what you said about now's time?
Yeah, I was fortunate to grow up in the era that I grew up in. It was still a lot of freedom. There was a lot of things that wasn't as restricted or confined as there is today. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. If I could prefer any other era at all, it would probably be like the mid-60s or something. But yeah, growing up, I'd give my childhood 7 out of 10. There were problems, and it prepared me pretty quick for life. And then once my dad moved to Florida in 84, late 83, and once I went full-time to Florida, man, it just got wilder. It just got crazier. I grew up on a farm. Any spare time I had that wasn't in school or at the house, I was working on a tobacco farm.
Would you say you had a good childhood and what you grew up with?
Definitely, people have had better and people have had a lot worse childhoods. Like I said, I'd rate mine about a 7. There were problems. I had to grow up quick in some situations, developed a good work ethic and manners and how to deal with problems when they came up. And a lot of people focus on the good times or the great times in their life, and they kind of push aside the bad times. But it's the bad times, man, that make the good times even greater.
What do you mean you had to go past the you said you had to develop something about bad times?
Well, the bad times was the separation between my parents and being put in a situation where I had to choose. With my mom's situation, I was more of a dollar sign to her than a son. She wanted alimony, she wanted child support, all that kind of stuff. The older I got around her, the more I realized it wasn't about me. I was a meal ticket, more or less. And that's hard to deal with as a kid. And you try to shove it aside and not think about it, but it's there. And it caused problems over the years. We made our peace when she passed.
When did your mom die?
She passed in 2015. I was with her up till the very moment that she passed.
Sorry for your loss.
Hey, man, life is full of loss. It's how you deal with it, defines you and makes you a better person. I've dealt with a lot of loss over the years, but it's hard to deal with it first, but it's something you have to endure the older you get.
You said, you're glad you were a Gen X baby. You, had a pretty okay life for, what you think you had. Do you think you had a weird life compared to other kids?
Compared to other kids I grew up around, yeah,
How so?
they had both parents in the house. You know, they didn't have to worry about where your mother was going to get groceries. And if they did, I didn't know it. I was only dealing with the situation I had going on. Life ain't always great. Sometimes it kicks you in the neck and you have to deal with that. But, would I prefer a better childhood? No, no, because it prepared me for life.
I heard that you grew up on a tobacco farm. Like, can you tell me about that?
Yeah. My great grandfather is well known in North Carolina for tobacco, and he had and still has his family a very nice tobacco farm. They grew tobacco, pumpkins, watermelons, corn, beans, you name it. But tobacco was the primary crop. And when I was up for summers from Florida, or even growing up before Florida, I would do lots of odd jobs around the farm. If you were able to work, you were working. You know, it was hard work. It put a good work ethic in me, and I tried to do the best I could at anything they asked me to do.
With your parents and everything, do you think that impacted you besides having a good work ethic?
So I had to learn to make money on my own very early. At 15, I moved out. I had to get a job. It taught me to do a good job. It taught me to do a thorough job, and it taught me to do something to the best of my ability. And if I didn't have the ability to do it, I learned or asked. So yes, that definitely prepared me for dealing with life.
Does that kind of go along with like the tobacco farm? That's how you kind of developed a good work habit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're asked to do something and you fail at it, you feel bad, but I felt like I let the person down who asked me to do that job for. 'Em. If it was even as simple as mowing grass or moving fence posts or whatever I might have been asked on the job, yeah.
Now, who specific? Like, I know it was a family farm, but who exactly owned it? Like, was it your aunt? Like, was it your mom? Like, who was it?
No, it was my great grandfather, mom's side.
When did the farm start?
I couldn't tell you when it started. I would say somewhere back in the 50s, maybe even he's still there today. You still do it today. You're one of the top tobacco growers in North Carolina.
So around World War II, kind of.
Well, I know that there were World War II photographs hanging in the house of him and his earlier family, before I ever knew him. So, yeah, I would say it was at least around back then.
How old did you say you were when when you were working on this farm? Like, how long did it kind of last in your age range?
Probably started doing actual work, probably around 7 or 8, and on and off until I was 15. I would come up from Florida, living in Florida for the summers, and I would spend the summers on that farm. All of my family, my great grandfather and my great aunt and cousins all lived on the same street, all worked on the farm.
What were your main responsibilities?
Wherever they needed work filled in for the day, a lot of times carrying fence posts, getting the time stick for the tobacco together, just general chores, man. And they increased as my age increased or my ability increased, from milking a cow to harvesting watermelons, pumpkins, snapping beans, shucking corn, you name it. If it was to be done, we did it. We were happy to.
How come you kind of stopped at 15?
I had to work. I was living with my dad in Florida, and he was in bad shape health wise. He'd already had 3 heart attacks. I've had 3 heart attacks myself. At 15, I had to get a job, and the only job I could get and was very good at, unfortunately, back then was telemarketing. Fraternal Order of Police. They hired me at 15, and I took that job very seriously. I've always been able to tell stories and relate to people and talk, at length with people. I've really never been a judge of anybody. So I guess telemarketing and the gift of gab definitely helped, and I was good at it. But my dad wasn't in the shape to buy me clothes or financially able to buy me extra things I needed and whatnot. Yeah, at 15, I had to get a job. I started selling stuff in school at 16 and a roll around piece of Samsonite luggage that basically I carried a candy store around in my suitcase during middle school. So I started making money.
What was all the stuff you kind of sold? Like, I assume, like, when you say that, you meant like the Dollar Tree kind of thing.
We lived within 2 miles of the school, so I had to walk to school every morning. And over time, trying to make money, I discovered that everybody in school wanted stuff from the convenience store that they couldn't go to. So I bought a huge piece of roll around luggage and filled it up with canned drinks, Mountain Dews, Coke, chips, whatever little fad was going around at the time. Some of it might have been racket balls or little quick clackers that like fidget spinners are today. It was little things like that. The mirrors, the rock and roll mirrors that you got from the circus, fair, carnival, whatever, all kinds of stuff, man. If somebody asked me for something, I would pitch it up the day after at school and bring it the next day. Yeah.
Did you also sell candy? Could you tell me a little more on that if you don't mind?
Yeah. All kinds of candy bars, man. Fifth Avenues, Butterfingers, whatever was popular. I tried to keep in stock something for everybody. I even did, well, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have rock and roll magazines that I would cut the pictures out of and sell the full page for a quarter and the posters for 60 cents or $1, depending on how big it was or who it was. Any way I could make money, it was probably in my bag at that time. And my teachers even liked me to the point where some of them would end class a little early or give me a few minutes at the beginning of class to sell my stuff. I never really had any issues with stuff like that.
That's definitely different because teachers probably would not do that nowadays.
No, no. All my teachers liked me, man. I wasn't the most punctual student, but I knew the material and I passed my test. But they knew I wasn't going to stick to a regular clock and I wasn't going to go by a bunch of rules. I did what I did to pass, but they liked me enough to where they would let me do that. I never had any problem with any teacher.
And this was around probably, I'm guessing, the sophomore, junior year kind of set.
This was in sixth grade.
Wow. Was it you who came up with the idea, or were like your parents saying you need to get a job like now?
They never told me I had to get a job. They never forced that on me. They really didn't. My dad mainly is who I lived with down there. He didn't really ever tell me what was going on specifically, but we were close enough to where I knew what was happening. He was fighting disability and stuff. And back then, you didn't get it as easily as you do today. I just had to contribute, man. I felt like I had to, since I was able to, I had to at least provide for myself and also help them if I could.
And you said you never got in trouble with anybody. Like, did you ever get in trouble with the cops or anything like that?
I skipped school a lot. Back then, we had truant officers. I never had a problem with them. Again, I was further along than most of the kids were in sixth grade as far as maturity. I had to deal with what I was doing, and no, I didn't ever have any problems. No, no, I never had any problem with cops or anything like that. That all came about once the tattooing started. That's where the drugs and things like that started to affect my surroundings.
In the interview you sent me of that one guy, you and I quote, you said that you didn't take shit from people. Did you develop it? Did that like come like around middle school time, or like did you develop any threats?
I didn't really have any enemies, but I did. If someone was being bullied, uh, I stood up for the person that was being bullied, so I became the bully's bully. And I definitely learned because of my size. I'm 6'4", 280 now, but I was a big kid, and I learned quick that intimidation and size will get you out of a lot of situations before they even begin. So I started using my size to benefit the ones that didn't have the size to defend themselves. But I never went looking for anything. I never turned away from anything either. If someone came at me as far as any type of anger, my dad always told me a fight is never fair. You know, there's no such thing as a fair fight. If someone wants to come at you in anger, you can either run or you can stand and defend yourself however best you can. That's what I always do. You can't always climb to safety. Sometimes you have to.
In your dad's eyes, did he think like if you did run, did he think it was like a pussy move to do that?
My dad hung around with guys that built muscle cars and race cars and things. And a lot of times I was over there playing basketball in the parking lot or in the driveway or whatever with friends or their kids. And one time I got into an altercation with a kid over playing basketball, and he threw the ball at me, and then he picked up a stick and come at me and hit me with the stick. Uh, I walked off and I walked over to where my dad was to avoid the confrontation. And my dad said, you need to go put him in his place. You need to teach him that you're not going to take that. And he made me go back over there, and I never walked away from anything again. I mean, I had to stand my ground, because once they start doing that to you, it gets around pretty quick in the kid community that you're going to take anything they give you. And if you let that happen, then I was the person that had to step in and stop. I became that person.
And that was like the point of when you kind of realized that you take it from anybody, really, if you want them to take you seriously.
Yeah, if you take it from one, you're going to have to take it from all of them. And that's just something that wasn't in me to do.
You probably know me, right? I'm Ronick, as you're watching my show. Anyways, basically, if you want to check out more of my stuff, have you check out my other show. I have a second account titled Ronick1012_, which was my first account before this. If you want to check out my short films and my things I make for school, you should go there and support me. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this. While you're at it, leave me a like, please. Peace.
So I never had enemies. I never had to look over my shoulder or anything like that. All that came into play once the tattooing started. And again, insecurities and artists and creativity, that's a whole different world. But childhood, I never messed with drugs. I didn't drink. I still don't drink to this day. I was too busy trying to provide for myself, my family, and just enjoy life, man.
But going back to like the farm, did you enjoy working on? Like, I know you said you liked it because it was your family, you loved that helping them. But like, did you think of it more as a chore, or did you think it's just, hey, I'm helping them out?
I've always been hands on and I absolutely love the outdoors. So anytime I was outside, didn't matter what I was doing, I was happy. And that's still the case today. I prefer to be outside than I prefer to be inside. Uh, but but it was great, man. I mean, you're around nature, you're doing things, you're growing things, you're nurturing things to grow. It was great. I loved it. It was simple time.
With all the kids like who are inside, including me, I've been a hypocrite with tennis. Do you prefer like the way your childhood, where like you were outside all the time, compared to like where there's probably a bunch of kids just inside?
I would be miserable inside. Even if I had the chance or option or whatever to stay inside all day, I would not want to. I didn't want to as a kid either. I didn't have the video games back then. My first video game was Pong. And once I got an Atari 2600, man, I thought I was at the arcade. But at the same time, I still wanted to be outside. I think if I was in today's childhood, I would I would probably still prefer to be outside. I love nature. It's in me.
Let's say you were like raised in today's age, like how do you think you would be different?
I don't think that would be the man I am. Human interaction and learning to do things in society and outside is something I think every child should have the chance to do. And I think whoever created all this, I thank them for the outside, because I feel bad for kids today. No offense, but to sit inside and not experience social interaction on a personal level, you're missing out on a lot of things. You're missing out on a lot of joy.
What was the hardest part you'd say, like working on the farm?
Just the physical labor, whatever it was. I mean, it was work. Having that freedom and being able to create something from nothing and help contribute, that was well worth it. None of it was too strenuous. I mean, you were tired at the end of the day, but again, you'd been outside all day, so it all balanced.
Being like, because we're the even we're the only ones who really know this is the second attempt. Did you said something about like losing your family was hard last time?
Losing anyone in your family is hard. The older you get, the more you get kind of I don't want to say numb, but your feelings definitely get tougher over time. But both my parents are gone, and I'm happy for the fact that I had the chance to be with them both when they left. But that's a void you can't fill, man. You can't call them, you can't talk to them, you can't. All you can do is keep them in your heart and in your mind.
Even though you said it was not really numb, but like when did you kind of get to that point?
You talking about where it started to affect my feelings in death?
I mean, like just when did you kind of become numb to death? If you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know when I came to the point to where it didn't affect me as bad. each one affects you on a different level. There's a difference between losing your parents and maybe losing your grandfather or your aunt. To some people, other people in their lives mean more to them. But I started to feel the loss and feel the grief probably in about ninth grade. I had a friend that was having some problems with his parents, and he was taking me home after football practice, and he told me that he was having some problems at home. And I told him, I said, just come on to the house. My dad likes you. He knows you. You can stay overnight with us. No big deal. He said, no, I got to work it out. I'll figure it out. And he dropped me off at home. I told him again, something comes up, knock on the door, you walk anytime. And he went and committed suicide at the school pool. That affected me because I was the last person to talk to him. And after that, everyone had a different meaning and a different way I had to deal with it. Losing my parents was devastating. I think about them every day. But the older you get, the more you have lost in your life. My advice to anyone is cherish the heartbeats that are in your life, because when you're gone, someone else will live in your house, wear your clothes, wear your jewelry, drive your car, whatever. So if there's a heartbeat in your life, that's what matters, and cherish it while it's with.
About that. How do you think your life in high school was like?
My life in high school was pretty much like middle school. I was constantly selling something. I had a great group of friends. I was popular. I didn't have a lot of the things that kids have to deal with now in high school socially. There wasn't a lot of bullying going on. All in all, high school was okay, man. I showed up when I wanted to. I didn't really go by a time clock, period, or whatever. I passed all my grades. I kept my GPA to where I could play football, and it was just like middle school, man. My teachers loved me. I didn't have any problems with teachers.
When you say that, like, not like bullying like today, I feel there would be bullying because, like, people say, oh man, we need to bring bullying back. Like, that's what people in the older generation say sometimes.
There was bullying going on, but it wasn't prevalent. It wasn't as active and often as it is today in schools. But again, once you've proved yourself not to take it, then, you kind of have to stand up for the ones that can't, that have to take it. So if there was a bullying issue in school, I was usually the one that was retaliating to the bully. I didn't stand for it. I can't stand for it. I won't stand for it today. I mean, I'm a live and let live person. I don't care what you're doing, but when it interferes my outlook in my life, then yeah, I'm gonna have to say something. High school was about the same as middle school, but once I got out of high school, that's when the real chaos started. That's when some of the drugs started happening and tattooing and all that. That's when life got to be, I felt like I had to defend myself all the time. High school was great, man. I would definitely recommend living as best you can in high school because you're not going to get those times back.
So high school was around the best time of your life, you would say?
Yeah, it was. It was a time where I had a job. I showed up when I had to take a test or something like that. Again, I had a lot of freedom. I didn't have curfew or anything, and high school was the last stepping stone to adulthood, and I was living my best life at the time. Again, before the drugs.
Is there something you would say that like shaped your life to how like other than being like other than social interaction,
Something that shaped my life.
like to who you are today?
Yeah, I would say when I was 15, 16, we moved to a town called Weeki Wachee in Florida. And that was as close to heaven as I think you can get. I didn't have a TV for 2 years. I lived outdoors basically any chance I could. I had a pet alligator. You have to grow up when you're out all the time on the water. You have to pay attention and get responsible about keeping your surroundings safe. And I think that I took that later in life. And I always have an exit plan. And that's really what changed my life. I knew that I wanted to live free and peaceful, man. Learning the tattoo kind of sidetracked that.
Are you married, if you don't mind me asking?
Yes, I'm currently married, living in Alabama. I've been married for 17 years now. And my wife and I home care her mother, who is bedridden with a lesion on her brain. And her father passed away in October. We were taking care of him up until he passed.
Congrats on the married part. Sorry about the parent thing.
I have a problem being around somebody for 17 minutes. It's astonishing to me that I haven't tried to climb out a window in 17 years. So, yeah.
What's your wife like?
My wife was raised in a very religious family. She doesn't practice the religion she was brought up in. She's a great person. She's got a great personality. When we met, I was at a very dark stage in my life. I basically just gave up and was counting the days, I guess. We met online. We clicked. We spent 7 days on a road trip back to where I lived from where she lived. And after that 7 days, I realized, I love this person and I don't want to get away from them. So, yeah, I asked her if she'd marry me, and I never thought I'd be married in my life. We get along good. It's a lot of stress being a caregiver full time. Right now, she's sleeping in her mother's room because of dementia. And it's stressful, man. It is. But I'm glad to have someone with me to do it because my biggest fear in life, after all I've gone through and all I've lost, is dying alone. It's horrible for anybody.
I just came up with something that I want to ask about the whole selling stuff. How much were you making daily, like back like when you were selling stuff and like in high school and all that?
In middle school, it was somewhere between, on a good day, $10 to $15. I mean, well, on a bad day, $10 to $15. On a good day, up to about 20, 25, $30 a day, depending on um, what was popular at the time, because you definitely made more when you had the latest gadget or gizmo everybody wants. In high school, it definitely went up because in high school back then, it was, I guess, for lack of a better word, mail order catalogs where you could order jewelry and stuff. And so I sold jewelry to friends in high school and they would pay me. And it was kind of like a small business there for a while. And any angle I could to sell something, flea markets, whatever. I've always done it.
So you had to do somewhat of a job. Did you continue doing that like when you were like an adult?
I've always hustled. I've always been artistic. That's why I got into tattooing. And I knew that tattooing would go anywhere I went. It would give me money within an hour. So my mindset is always being able to relocate, move, or travel and still be able to provide an income. So even if I had a steady job, like I worked at Stanley Furniture, I paved roads, I worked on a hog farm, I worked in a chicken house. Telemarketing over the years was good to me. I've always had to hustle, so it's always part of my life. As of right now, I sell stuff on Marketplace and I sell sports cards. I donate a lot of sports cards to kids and things like that. I'm always hustling, man. And being artistic and being able to paint, airbrush, silk screen, tie dye. If times got tough, I had that to fall back on, and I still use it today.
You were making $25 when you were like you were in middle school, high school, some around there.
Yeah, yeah. And then once I started working a job or something, it was just bonus. I always felt that I had to create money to handle a situation if it came up. Again, that plays into up to now, right now, I still run a scenario in my head of an exit plan and what I would do if I was having to walk out and relocate tomorrow. What what would I be able to make money at? So yeah, yeah. I felt I had to.
If you're okay with me hearing what's the exit plan?
No. At this age, my exit plan would to be punch my time card, take myself out of the situation. That's always my backup plan. But if I had to leave and relocate or move or whatever, drop of a hat, I would probably go back to tattooing. It's simple. It goes everywhere, everywhere. You can walk into any convenience store in any town, and within 30 minutes, you will have someone wanting a tattoo or a piercing. So that's always been my main go-to on the road.
When did you get into tattooing?
When I was about 18, 19, I got a tattoo. When I was 13, Indian ink and needle and thread. But I've been able to draw since I was old enough to remember. I was always drawing, and I knew I wanted to do something in the art world. But once I discovered tattooing and actually got a real tattoo, from then it was on, man. I was on it. At first, I got tattoos to learn the equipment and basically fly on the wall while I was getting the tattoo, learning as much as I could. But then a guy over in Fayetteville, North Carolina, that worked for Bill Clayton's, he taught me the basics, and I just took it from there, man. I love it. I loved it. It is stressful after so many years. I did it for 25 years. It is stressful after so many years to deal with people on that level, but young, I loved it. I loved it.
Were there any crazy moments you had while doing that business?
Oh man, we could do 10 of these shows and I couldn't cover them. Once the tattooing started, the money started coming in. At one point, man, I was loaning friends $500 at a time because I knew I would make it before the end of the night. When you have that much money and you pretty much are a free spirit and, like to experiment with things, it can go real sideways real quick. And I got a love of acid. I've probably done 15 to 1800 hits of acid in my life. I mean, I tried to make a career of it, but tattooing provided the money to be able to do that. It was too much money for an idiot like me to be turned loose with. So yes, shit got chaotic then. I've had knives pulled on me. I've had guns pulled on me. I've had my customers beat up. My brother went in and raped the dude's shop one night because of what he was saying. The tattoo business is dealing with artistic people, and artistic people are very insecure with their art. And when that becomes a problem, not everybody's going to take it. So, yeah, tattooing was a very chaotic period. And
What do you mean by they got knives pulled on you? Like something happened?
it developed from, well, the shop I had in Mississippi developed from the other shop owner being so insecure and petty and greedy that he basically launched a war at us when we opened our shop there. We were not from that city. We were outsiders, and he thought he had territorial rights. And he did some things to kind of provoke us. And me, my brother, two other people, we were kind of like a gang. So anytime the problem came at us, we took it right back to him. And that led to, pulling up to a stoplight at night, going to get something to eat or whatnot. The guy next to you recognizes you from being his tattoo guy's enemy. And so he wants to start some shit. Or you walk into a gas station and you get a knife pulled on you at the counter because the guy standing behind you works at the other shop. I mean, it's bullshit. I never understood it. I never engaged in starting it because I feel like there's plenty of skin, man. I mean, why I don't worry with what someone else is doing. If I'm happy with what I'm doing, I don't care what someone else is doing. He did not feel that way. So he even made commercials that made us look horrible. I mean, it was rough. It was rough.
So were you like your 30s, late 20s? Like how old were you? Like during like this about prime time of tattooing?
This was from say 94 up to 2001. I've had three different shops in three different states and pretty much the same problem in every one. Outside talking from other shops, and a lot of tattoo artists look at it like, okay, if a guy gets a tattoo from me and he goes across town a month later or whatever, the guy at the other shop is going to talk shit about me because A, that guy didn't give him the money to do that tattoo, and B, I'm the competition. Whereas if someone comes to my shop and said in conversation, I got this at so and so, I never played into that. Again, dealing with artists, you're dealing with a lot of insecure people, so things like that are always present.
You say artists are insecure. Would you say you're insecure?
Absolutely, when it comes to my art, yeah. I torture myself over it. For the 2 hours leading up to this podcast, I was a nervous wreck, man. It's like getting ready for a fight. It's emotional, and it's talking about things in my life. I'm an open book, but yeah, it's very emotional.
After this interview, like is there anything I can do to like soothe your nerves, I would say?
No, no, man. It's like I related to putting on a concert. You're wore out afterwards. Your anxiety and your anticipation leading up to it. But once you get into it, you're into it. Like right now, I'm in the moment. But afterwards, it's like coming down off of a drug, man. I mean, it hits you hard. It's exhausting. You think, did I do my best? Did I say my best? Did I come off wrong? Did I give the wrong impression? Yeah, it's a lot to deal with.
What inspired you to become an artist? Because you are an artist if you do tattoos.
I do all types of art, from painting to wood carving. I took a class on lapidary, which is stone cutting and stone channeling. I've always been artistic. I've always loved art. I've always looked at it as a release from anxieties or depression or things you're dealing with. Later in life, things took the place of that. And sometimes I get to a point where I do not want to do anything artistic at all. And then other times I can turn out 10 or 15 different things in a day. It's exhausting being artistic, but it's also exhausting living life. So I love it. I love it and I hate it at the same time.
To a point in your life where you kind of like, I like this. I want to try art.
I'd say third grade, I had a teacher that saw a drawing that I did. There was two other guys in my class, Keith and Kevin, and I grew up loving the band Kiss. So we were always drawing band Kiss on anything we could. And she asked me to do like little projects for like poster boards and stuff, announcing things in class. And I kind of got into doing that. And the friends I had really liked it and asked me to draw things for them. So that's when I knew that art was going to be a part of my life.
Going back like to your wife, you said she like was in like she was a religious kind of background. How are your two backgrounds different?
Okay. Yeah, I can sum that up pretty quick. When we first got together, we were back over here in Alabama, and she grew up here. All her family was from here. So she would, as we were riding around or doing whatever, she would point out places, like I used to do Bible study there, or I remember the lady that lives there, or, I grew up with my aunt and that, whatever. It was good memories for her. So when we go back to where I grew up in Florida, I took her down there right after my mom passed and showed her where I grew up and where her history and memories have a halo on them. Mine have a tail and horns. So I'm pointing out things like I got a lot of acid at that house. I was arrested at that house. That dude used to have some great weed. That's the difference, man. We grew up in two different worlds. But I think that we're a good match. We're definitely best friends. At this point, there isn't anything about my life she doesn't know already. I'm very open. I don't hide anything I've ever done because it makes me the person I am now to where if I tell these stories, maybe somebody will learn a lesson from it or at least say, damn, I don't want to do that. I don't just focus on the good. The bad is what makes the good.
Like how Batman and Superman is all dark. Does she think your background is kind of scary or like depressing?
There's definite times in my background that she thinks is very depressing and dark. And, there are times in my life that are very dark. But being the positive force that she is and so positive in energy and helping and things like that, such a good person, I think it's a good contrast between us and we balance. That's why we work so well helping her mom and everything. We're a good match, but definitely voting 8 years now to being a caregiver definitely does strain a marriage immensely.
How would you mean?
It takes away your desire for your partner. It weighs on your mind as far as feel guilty having a good time or having a good evening to yourself, knowing that there's a person in the other room that is not living very well as far as being bedridden. It affects your sex drive. It affects your conversations. Everything is serious. There's some laughs, but a lot of times her schedule is not the same as mine. Like I said, right now, she's been sleeping in her mom's room since her dad passed in October. So we're not even in the same room at night. In the 8 years we've been doing this with them here now, we have not sat down to a meal together in at least 5 years and have not sat down to a meal outside of the house together in probably 7 years.
And correct me if it's out of line, but do you think your marriage will do you think you'll all feel different like after it's over, like you're done taking care of their parents?
Well, will be devastated that her mother is gone because her mother's a great person. She does not deserve the life she's been given. Yeah, I mean, once the pressure is off, daily routine you don't have to keep anymore, then yeah, the smiles are going to come easier. Talking about good times and experiencing good times is going to come easier. And you'll probably appreciate each other more afterwards because of what you've gone through together. In some marriages, people stay together just for convenience. And that may work for some people, but if love isn't there, man, you have to question. If you're not happy, you're not happy. But I'm happy. I'm content in what I'm doing. She helped me with my mother, and I'm helping her with her. When this is over, then we have another chapter in our life to try and get through.
Even like you said, you've had a hard, in my opinion, you've had a hard life. I don't know about you, but you've definitely made it work somehow.
Having a hard life helped make it work. I don't think I would be the person I am today. I could have definitely went down a different road and become a thief or whatever. But I tried to get through life as best I could, enjoy every day. And now after 3 heart attacks, man, every day is a bonus. Any day I can get up and feel good about myself and try to help somebody if I can in any way possible, it was a good day. Every day for me now is a bonus. Because of what I've gone through, it makes me appreciate it more.
Would you say your life isn't for the weak?
No, I wouldn't give a weak person my life. It was a lot of scraping and surviving to survive. It was a lot of defending myself and others around me. It was a lot of violence. There was a lot of drugs. No, I would not wish that life on a weak person at all.
Well, that was all of my questions, pretty much. Thank you, Alan, for coming on my show. I appreciate the second chance, and I believe it's good so far. So
we got it all this time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's good.
Hey man, that's great news. I'm willing to do this anytime. There's plenty of stuff left from my childhood, and not only the tattooing days, but after that and the heart attacks and all that. And I'm an open book, so feel free to reach out to me anytime you want to do one of these, man. I'm all for it. I appreciate you having me on.